Wilbur Wright was born in 1867, and Orville Wright was born in 1871 in Dayton, Ohio. They grew up in a simple home where their father, Milton Wright, was a bishop in the church, and their mother, Susan, had a talent for mechanics and tools. From their parents, they learned values of hard work, creativity, and faith. One day, when they were very young, their father brought home a small toy helicopter powered by rubber bands. This little toy fascinated them. They played with it until it broke, but the idea of flying stayed deep in their minds. That moment planted the first seed of their dream to fly. As children, Wilbur and Orville loved to explore. They built kites and mechanical toys. Wilbur was a bright student and had big ambitions to attend Yale University. However, an accident during an ice hockey game left him with broken teeth and injuries that changed his path. He stayed home, reading many books and helping his mother with tools. Orville was different. He was lively, adventurous, and interested in printing. Together, the brothers opened a printing press. They built their own printing machine from scratch and started a small newspaper business. This showed their ability to invent and to work as a team. Later, they shifted their interest to bicycles. Bicycles were becoming popular in the late 1800s. The brothers opened a bicycle repair and sales shop in Dayton. This gave them money, but more importantly, it gave them knowledge of mechanics, gears, balance, and control. They built their own bicycles, which they sold under the brand name Wright Cycle Company. This business sharpened their skills and funded their later experiments with flying machines. During the 1890s, newspapers were filled with stories of men trying to fly. The German pioneer Otto Lilienthal inspired the brothers with his glider flights. However, Lilienthal died in a crash, which showed the risks of chasing this dream. Wilbur and Orville began to study the problem of flight seriously. They read every book and article they could find. They even wrote letters to the Smithsonian Institution asking for information on aeronautics. The brothers understood that flight was not only about power, but about control. Birds could soar and turn gracefully. Machines had to do the same. They studied the movement of birds' wings and thought about how to twist the wings of a machine to control balance. This idea became known as wing warping. It was the key innovation that later allowed their success. In 1899, Wilbur wrote to the Smithsonian asking for more information. With that knowledge, the brothers built their first glider in 1900. They tested it at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, because the place had strong, steady winds and soft, sandy ground for landings. Their first glider did not perform as they hoped. It did not produce enough lift, but they were not discouraged. They went back to Dayton, made calculations, and built better versions. In 1901, they built a larger glider, but again, results were poor. Most people would have given up, but the Wright brothers decided to question the scientific tables used for lift calculations. They suspected that the existing data from previous researchers was wrong. So they built a small homemade wind tunnel in their bicycle shop. In this tunnel, they tested hundreds of different wing shapes. This was a turning point. They discovered the correct principles of lift and drag. Their experiments gave them data more accurate than any scientist had before them. With new knowledge, they built the 1902 glider. This machine had movable rudders and wing warping controls. At Kitty Hawk, they tested it, and for the first time, they could control flight smoothly. They made hundreds of glides, proving they had solved the mystery of balance and control. Only one problem remained. They needed an engine light enough, yet powerful enough to achieve powered flight. They tried to find an automobile engine, but none was suitable. So they decided to build their own engine with the help of their mechanic, Charlie Taylor. The engine was simple 4 cylinders made of aluminum producing 12 horsepower, but it was strong enough for their machine. They also designed their own wooden propellers using the knowledge they had gained from the wind tunnel. Finally, in December 1903, the brothers were ready to attempt powered flight. They took their new machine, which they called the Wright Flyer, to Kitty Hawk. On December 14th, Wilbur tried first, but the plane stalled and crashed into the sand. It was damaged but not destroyed. They repaired it, and on December 17th, 1903, it was Orville's turn. At 10:35 in the morning, Orville lay flat on the lower wing and started the engine. The flyer lifted in the air and flew for 12 seconds, covering 120 feet. It was the first time in history that a machine carrying a man rose by its own power, flew forward under control, and landed at nearly the same height. They made 3 more flights that day. The last one, piloted by Wilbur, lasted 59 seconds and covered 852 feet. Their joy was beyond words. They had achieved what humanity had dreamed for centuries. Yet very few people believed them. Newspapers did not pay much attention. Many thought it was just another failed experiment. But the Wright brothers knew they had changed history. In the following years, they continued to improve their machines. They made longer flights, sharper turns, and higher climbs. In 1905, their Flyer 3 could fly for over half an hour under full control. This proved that the age of aviation had truly begun. Still, recognition was slow. Many scientists doubted them. The brothers kept working quietly until 1908, when they demonstrated their flying machines in Europe and America. Crowds were amazed to see them circling in the sky like birds. Kings, queens, and presidents came to watch. Suddenly, the whole world believed. The Wright brothers became famous. Wilbur and Orville were different in character, but together they were unstoppable. Wilbur was serious, thoughtful, and often the leader in speeches and negotiations. Orville was more shy and technical, but he loved the machines deeply. Their teamwork and trust in each other made them strong. Wilbur died young in 1912 from typhoid fever. Orville lived until 1948, long enough to see airplanes cross oceans and even break the sound barrier. He always stayed humble, remembering the days at Kitty Hawk. The legacy of the Wright brothers is not only about the first flight. It is about persistence, curiosity, and the courage to question old ideas. They showed that success comes from testing, learning, failing, and trying again. They had no large factory, no government funding, and no university degrees in engineering. Yet, with determination, they opened the sky for all humanity. Their story is one of the greatest in American history. 2 bicycle makers from Dayton, Ohio, believed that man could fly, and they made it happen. The dream of flight, which once seemed impossible, became real because Wilbur and Orville Wright refused to give up.